All right, so now we're recording. All right, yeah, so today we're going to be covering character customization. We're going to be covering custom head creation, free bone actor creation, using actor templates. A lot of this stuff is already kind of available on YouTube videos that we have on our YouTube channel, and I can refer you to any of those videos a little bit later on. But yeah, we have a number of videos. If we're going too fast for you, like I mentioned in yesterday's webinar, if you're going too fast, we're going to be recording this and sending out links to all you guys as well. Like I mentioned yesterday as well, we're going to be using Photoshop extensively, mostly Photoshop, excuse me, in this webinar, in this class 2 of our webinar here. All right, so we're going to be creating a bunch of characters, and I'm going to be kind of deconstructing a couple of the existing characters for you just to kind of explain how things work. And then we're going to be getting around to creating our own custom characters, which you saw in the previous, beginning of the previous class, class 1 there. And finally, if you're here for part 3 tomorrow, we're going to be dealing with all the animation stuff and camera work. And I'll be showing you kind of just my workflow about how regarding how I put things together in Adobe Premiere and add some sound effects, maybe just refine the sound and everything like that, and all kinds of cool stuff in Premiere at the very end there. So thanks everyone for attending here. Like I mentioned in the previous webinar, last class here, if you are, we're going to be sending out a survey for you guys, like always. You're going to get a $10 gift certificate for the content store if you filled out that survey for us. And I wanted to make this class series a bit more interactive as well, like I mentioned in yesterday's class. So if you have any questions, anything that you want to cover, I'm going to be leaving some extra time at the end of this webinar. Hopefully we won't go over time as much as yesterday, but I'm going to be taking requests closer to the end about anything that you have. I know a couple of you have already emailed me regarding things that you want to know about. So if we have time, make sure you put those, I remember a couple of them, so I'll try to get to a couple of them at the end of the webinar here, but if I don't mention your question that you emailed me about, make sure you put it in the questions section of your GoToWebinar panel. It looks like the GoToWebinar panel just updated from yesterday to today, so we have a new looking UI. I'm not sure if that was the same way for everyone else, but mine, my UI is completely new. Anyways, yeah, put your questions or suggestions in the questions section, and we will get to that momentarily. We have a pretty large class of attendees again today, so we'll try to get to all the questions closer to the end. But first of all, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be learning how to deconstruct a character. So the characters I'm going to be dealing with in this webinar, like I mentioned before, like we saw yesterday, are the Little Mates characters, some of the Little Mates characters from Gary Pie. Then if we have time at the end of this webinar, we're going to be recreating, creating different types of characters as well. And I'll deconstruct other types of characters later on. Now these characters here, the way they animate is a little bit different. So let's take a look at this character, Kip right here, for example, okay? Now Kip is from the Gary Pie Little Mates pack originally. So if I go to the Content Manager in Actor, you have to purchase this separately. It doesn't come embedded with Crazy Talk. If you want to find it, you can go to Reallusion Content Store. And if you weren't here yesterday, we have it as one of our main pages here, Little Mates right here. So a bunch of cool stuff that you can check out right here. I can send this URL to you later if you want. Just email me. Again, my email is Kai, K-A-I, @reallusion.com. So all kinds of customization you can do with these characters, and I'll show you a little bit about that later on. There's kind of really unique characters. I thought I'd whip them up in this webinar. Okay, so let's take a look at Kip right here. So Kip, if we go into Composer mode, which is right here at the top, this is the most important button for today's class, Composer mode, because we're going to be going into Composer mode quite often. So when you take your character into Composer mode, you can really kind of take a look. You can deconstruct the character and take a look at all the stuff that's included in this character. Excuse me. Here we go. So here's our boy Kip right here. So let's take a look at what this guy consists of. He actually is a G3 character. However, the facial sprites are a little bit different. And I'm just going to go ahead and go into my sprite editor here. So if we go to the sprite editor, this character is mainly sprite based. You can see that it includes a whole library. Now the original character that I took this from has a whole bunch of more sprites in the library, much more sprites than we currently have on the screen right here. And I'll show you that in just a moment. But Gary has embedded all these different facial sprites into these characters here. So this one, like Freckles, for example, you can have a character with freckles, an angry character, hungover character with the wrinkles around the eyes and the I guess 24-hour shadow, I guess in this case, heavy wrinkles and just regular wrinkles on the character's face. You can also click on things like the eyes. Now the eyes for these particular characters, they're only able to animate with sprite replacement, okay? So take a look at if I click on each one of these different sprites, you'll notice that each sprite is a different kind of eye right here, or each image in the sprite is a different shape of the eye. Now when I refer to sprite, I'm meaning the actual facial feature. So the eye is the sprite, and the sprite contains an image library, okay? So when I talk about sprite, I'm talking about the overall image, or the overall facial feature that contains a bunch of images, okay? So you can see it has all these different eyes for different scenarios. And when we talk about animation in the next class, we'll talk more about how to use these. There's also the nose, for example. There's glasses, and there's glasses too for the nose. And the eyebrows, there's gray, there's different colors here, angled down, flat, high, angry, okay? And if we select any one of these, like say for example the normal one, we can go over here to the facial animation setup, and we're going to be releasing a tutorial on this later this week as well for the facial animation setup, a more detailed one. And you can see that in the facial animation setup, there's a bunch of different morphing for the eyebrows. Now, for this particular character, I don't really recommend using these morphs. The only reason it has these is because it's taken from a G3 character. If I select the nose, for example, over here, you can see it automatically kind of stretches the nose. And if we go into the stage mode later on, you'll see kind of how this affects everything. So this one here, the mouth is looking okay, but generally this character, these Little Mates characters, they're generally used to animate with sprite switching, so switching the sprites. Okay, so if I wanted to go back into stage mode here, back in stage mode, we can animate the character's sprites. I'll show you a brief example of animation. Let's actually just start a new project here, and let's. I have Kip saved as an actor in the custom tab here as well. So under custom character, let's take Kip in here, simplified character. We'll talk about a little bit about Marv a little bit later on. He has an accessory attached to him as well, and I kind of put sunglasses on him so we don't have to animate his eyes. It saves time in the animation if your character has sunglasses on, obviously. Okay, so if we go to like frame 1, we have our character like this. We can go to like frame 20 and go to the sprite editor. And when the sprite editor opens up, we'll select his eyes, and we'll have him kind of look over here, look behind, this one right here, look behind. So they're looking behind him right there. And if I press F3 and go into the timeline here, you'll notice that they're in the RI_S track right here stands for sprite. So this is the sprite animation. This one here with the T is the transform animation, and the D is deform animation. We won't be dealing with that in this case. But so if we go from here, and as soon as it hits that keyframe, they're going to switch to this behind expression right here. And if we select the eyebrow, it'll change to brow down here. So now we see brow_S. We can change that to high. You can also select from this little image right here, this reference image, and go high over here. So then he's this, and all those sprites are switching. So you see the 2 keyframes right here. So this is what sprite switch animation is more like. And then we can go over here and change his eyes back to, let's go like something like squinting. Maybe squinting at the audience, for example. All right, and we have some animation like this. in our animation part of our tutorial, which is coming up next. Let's angle it down like this, and there we go. Okay, so then we have an animation like this. Okay, and generally what you want to do is you don't want to kind of animate these at the same time. So you can actually take like the browse. You can click and drag and select multiple sprites at a time, and you can move them just like over like this. So then the sprite switching for the browse is not going to occur until frame 35 right here. So then we have the eye squinting and then going like this. Okay, so he's looking over here, and then you get a little bit more emotion. So first he's looking over, and then he's bringing his eyes down. So just kind of a quick example there of how you animate these sprite-based characters, these Little Mates characters. Exclusively, I recommend using sprite switching. Now, if I right-click the character and I select Remove Object Animation, that's going to remove all the animation that I just created there. Might take a second here. There we go. And I'll show you what I mean if you go to the Facial Puppet tool here. Facial Puppet tool, if I press Preview, you can still get the, sprite switching at certain points. And if we just select this profile here, for example, just like an angry one, you can see, it's not, sometimes the motion, the movement can be a little bit too extreme. And, it's really recommended to use the sprite switching. You can use the morphing like this, and you can actually layer them on top of each other. So if you morph them like this, you can morph and sprite switch at the same time. So if we, let's say, for example, we took I think this expression right here, or something that morphs the eyes quite a bit. Okay, so let's try this one. So if we just go ahead and record this, okay, we have our character like that. So this is the animation that we created, just like this. And if you want, like in the middle of that, you can switch your sprites over. So right here, when they're kind of starting to enlarge, you go to the sprite editor and switch them to the dilated pupils. There's a dilated one here somewhere. There you go, dilate. And choose this one and dilate it as well. So then the eyes expand. You can see the eyes morphing and the sprite switch as well. So you can kind of combine them together if you want to combine the two styles together. So you have a morphing of the actual shape and the sprite switching at the same time. So we have something like this. Okay, and you can kind of be creative with that kind of stuff as well. But generally with these characters, sprite switching is the way to go. Now let's take a look at the regular G3 character in comparison. Okay, so regular G3 character is, I'm going to bring in our good old go to Actors G3 Human over here, and we have this Elastic Folks male right here, not Elastic Molks. All right, so let's take a look at how this guy differs. I'm going to delete our current character off the screen right here. And if we go to this guy, we go to Character Composer mode. Excuse me. And here, this character, the way it animates, the face animates, is a little bit different. So if we select the eyes, we go to Sprite Editor, there's only 6 separate eye slots. Now the eyes for these characters, these G3 characters, are vector-based. Now vector-based and image-based are quite different. So if you want to export this character, this eye, you can't export it to Photoshop right here. You can't launch to an external image editor. However, something like the chest, you can. Okay, so if we select the chest, this option becomes available, and we can launch it. We can put a logo on his shirt in Photoshop pretty easily. Just like this. We select his shirt. Let's just choose like a brush here. I don't know. Or maybe let's just choose a shape here. Custom shape tool. I have a heart preset here. So I'm going to just put a heart on his chest there, for example. And maybe just put a little bit further over here. There we go. And now we just need to do a save. So save that and select a PNG file. Make sure you select PNG. It'll open up this temp file. Generally what you can do is you can just save it. And it should update in Crazy Talk right away. Sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it does. There you go. Okay, so we can deselect Show Bone, and boom, there we have a heart on our character's shirt. So that's how easy it is to customize, an image-based character. And this is why, personally, for myself, in terms of customizing characters, I find that G3 characters are a lot easier. When you do a G2 character or a G1 character, you have to do it in Flash, and you have to re-import a special SWF file from Flash that includes other stuff, or you can attach accessories and whatever. But for image-based characters like this, it's really this easy to do it. Okay, to just attach something or kind of change the image on your character's shirt. Okay, excuse me. So what I'm going to do now is we're just going to go back into stage mode here. I'm going to show you how the facial animation differs here. So this is a G2 or G3 character, and if we go to facial puppet tool right here, now you can see that this character is kind of more built for this type of facial animation. So if we go to like an angry, you can see the facial sprite will stretch just like this. Okay, the teeth are stretching. There's one down here. You can see the shocked mouth opening, and even the eyes are morphing and everything. Okay, this one's like a really happy smile. Excuse me. Okay, and you can see the results right here. So these types of characters, these facial sprites can stretch as well as replace, like I showed you with the Gary Pye character. If I go into composer mode one more time here, and we go to the sprites on our character's face, let's just go into the sprite editor here. You can see the mouth. There's a number of different expressions for the mouth here. So this is the template that you want to do. If you're creating your own character off of G3 template, what you want to do is you want to load your G3 character first, and then just replace all the parts, okay, and stuff like the nose. The nose is only one single sprite, but notice that the nose, everything we cannot launch in an external image editor, so they're all vector-based. All the facial features are vector-based. So that's the one disadvantage. But without that, we couldn't stretch and move them all around without looking good, because it just looks better for vector-based characters. All right, so in Photoshop, I guess we're done with this now. We don't really have to worry about that. And this is just something I was working on before. So that's kind of the difference between the sprite-based faces and the morph or the G3 faces. These ones are used for deformation. And if you want to adjust the level of deformation or transformation on your character's facial features, just go over here to the facial animation setup, and this is the kind of panel you want to use when you're adjusting your character's facial features. So, whenever he smiles, let's just use this one for example. Let's go to eyebrows here. Eyebrow down, it's going to be right here. Now there's deform and there's transform. Deform will change the shape of your eyebrow. So if you want to change the shape, or the transform will change the position. So say the eyebrow is going down, we want it to go further down. Let's go and put it like right above the eyeball, like right here. Okay, and this is the brow drop right. You can see on the guide what will happen. And this is brow raise right. So you can raise the brow like this, maybe up to the hair level. Okay, and if we go to the other side, left brow, it'll be a little bit different. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this down and just kind of look in the face key editor. Let's go back to stage mode here. And let's look in the face key editor on how that changed everything. So we go to face key editor right here. And if we just select our eyebrows by themselves and we move them both up, notice that the left one now, or his right one rather, the one on our left will move higher. And if we move them down, this one will move a little bit lower. So that's what it does. It kind of sets the limits, and you can also change the shapes and everything like that. But I'm not going to go into too much detail on this particular section here, because we're releasing a tutorial later this week about it, and you can really mess around with the facial animation editor on your own time. What I'm going to talk about now is we're going to get into a couple other things here. The first thing we want to take a look at is in Crazy Talk. Let's load up our project here. Or no, let's actually just go ahead and start a new project. And we have our character Marv. So Kip is pretty simple. All I really did with Kip is let's bring in like a regular Gary Pye character here, like this Ted, for example. I just used this Ted template. And now you'll notice that these characters will take a little bit longer to load in. And this is because Gary Pye has actually loaded them all up with different sprites. So you can fully customize this character in like all sorts of different ways. if we go to like our spray editor over here, there's all sorts of different hairstyles for this character. So we have like dark hair, brown hair, orange, and different hairstyles that he's included as well. So these are all included in this character. So it may take a little bit longer to load up. If you want, you can just delete all these hairstyles, and it'll kind of save some loading time on your character. But generally, I like to keep them. If you want to, have your character load faster, you can just delete them all and just load in the one that you want. So for example, if I go to composer mode here, and I'll just show you quickly with the hair. So it's loading all those sprites here again. And with the hair, I'm just going to like launch one into the external image editor here. And we'll just save this. We have it saved already, blonde PNG right there, okay? And go back into character creator, and we can just delete all the hair. So with its front hair selected right here, the front hair item is selected in the scene manager, we can just go ahead and delete it. And that'll remove all the sprites. Now, alternately, you can remove the sprites one by one in the sprite editor, which will take forever. And I'll show you that in just a moment. But the easiest way, if you have a lot of sprites, loaded into one particular, or a lot of images loaded into one particular sprite, then you can just go ahead and delete the bone. When it's in blue, there's a blue kind of selection box here, and just delete that blue selection box, and he'll be bald in a sec here. Or we can just go now to a sprite editor, and that should delete everything. I'm not sure why that didn't, but it should delete everything anyways. We select that trim one more time here, delete. It should delete all the sprites, and it's going to take a second here because this character is loaded up with different images like I mentioned. And then you can separately load that single sprite on there, or that single image. So we can go ahead and like save this. Actually, I already have it saved somewhere in my folder, I believe. Okay. Not sure why, but it should be deleting all those. Either way, the next option for you is to delete them one by one. That should work. Maybe it's some sort of bug or something, but you can also delete them one by going to the sprite editor and just selecting them and selecting delete. All right. So that's about it for like customizing the characters. Now, what I'm going to do is show you how to add accessories to your character really quickly, because if we go to our character Marv, let's go back into stage mode here. And after this, we'll go ahead and start a character from scratch. The furry character you saw in the previous, our previous webinar, yesterday's webinar. So if we take a look at Marv over here really quickly, we'll see that Marv has a hat. And the hat is basically just what I searched under Google. I just searched like, cartoon hat. I would just search cartoon something, and you can just like save a hat. I think this is the one I saved right here. And again, make sure you choose a PNG. So go to Settings, Advanced Search, and File Type, choose PNG again, okay, and Advanced Search, because you want a transparent background just to make things easier. We can, save this hat as well. This is a big image. So you can see the image size on the bottom there. Let's just take this, this cap right here, for example. It doesn't seem to have a transparent background. Maybe this fedora here will work. There we go. Okay, so we can just save this. And we'll just save it to our desktop here. And then I can take this into Crazy Talk and just save it as a prop. Okay, it looks pretty similar. Let's flip it around so it's on the other side, facing the other direction here. Make it a bit smaller there. Okay. And it doesn't really matter the position or anything. You can just go to Prop, Custom, and just save it. We'll save it as hat 2, or I think I have hat 2. Let's save it as hat 3. Okay? And now, see, Marv right here already has this hat on. Let's take a look at Marv. There's a couple things I've done to Marv here. I've given him the gray hair. If you go into composer mode here, and because the normal hair kind of pokes out the front, let's just select the hair here, for example, front hair. if I launch this in Photoshop, you notice that I just kind of basically erased the front part of the sprite, because if I didn't do that, the hair would be kind of popping out the edge of the hat here, which, you know, is kind of annoying. Doesn't really make sense. So we just kind of, because the hat's going to be covering it the whole time anyways, he only has half a head of hair, we'll say. Okay, and the nose is another thing that I modified here. So the nose, I just used the sprite editor, and I used that. So I deleted all the nose sprites, and I only have this normal nose with sunglasses here. And what I did for this one as well, to make the nose a little bit red, since he's kind of like a wino, I went to launch an external image editor right here. You know, just select a certain area, like this, for example, and you know, adjustments. I think I went to like levels, or no, not levels. Hue saturation, and you know, you can change it to like a red nose, an orange nose, or anything like that, purple nose, and you know, you can make him as much of a wino as you want him to be. Okay, so that's basically what I did there for this one, and then I just saved that back into Photoshop here, or into go ahead and oops, should be able to save that. There we go. Save it as normal here, or whatever. Replace it. There we go. And then it'll be a little even redder in Crazy Talk Animator here. So that's all I really did there. When the hair and the hat is basically what I did previously. So you just bring in a hat, and you want to make sure that hat is attached to a certain part of your to a certain bone. Okay, in this case, it's the head bone. Okay, so the head bone, there's head, face, and hat are both attached to the head bone here, which is this bone right here. Okay, so if I go ahead and delete this hat right here, let's go ahead and delete. That should delete. There we go. So now you can see his he's covering up his balding head there. If I want to attach another hat to this bone right here, well, I can just go to the Content Manager, Custom, Props, Custom, and find Hat 3. And we can replace Marv's hat just by doing this. And click and drag it onto that hat. And there we go. I guess it didn't flip, but we can just flip that later on. Nope, can't do it like this. And you probably want to flip it in Photoshop before you bring it in here. And there we go. We'll just kind of place it where we think it should be. And you can always rotate it as well. But there's currently no flip option, I believe. Nope. Just those options right there. You can flip it when you get back into stage mode. There we go. Awesome. Then we can place it, you know, resize it, place it wherever we want. It'll still be attached to our character. So there's Marv with his, you know, fancy new fedora. And that's how easy it is to, you know, attach a hat to a character. You can see if I move it around, the hat will now move with him because it's attached to his head bone. And that's generally how you want to attach accessories to your character. Now, you also saw Marv in one scene with a drink in his hand. Now, the drink in his hand is actually embedded in the character. Gary Pye embedded it in the character. So we just go to that with the hand. You can go to Sprite Editor here, and if you select the character's hand, a whole bunch of images here, and at the bottom there's a hand with a cocktail in it. All right, and you know, you can import in these sprites yourself. If I wanted to change the cocktail to a beer, for example, go to the composer mode again. And you'd have to just replace that hand sprite, or select the hand sprite that we want first, this one, and then you'd want to launch that. Oops. This one right here, I believe, and you want to launch it in Photoshop. No, for some reason it's not letting us restore it. Okay, anyways, you'd want to launch it in Photoshop, and I'm not sure if that's a bug or not, but anyways, okay. Back to stage mode. So now what we're going to do is we're finally going to get around to replacing character parts one by one. So this is the kind of the meat of the today's webinar. And the image that I took our regular character from here, since our detectives are investigating a furry convention, I used this image right here. I just searched Happy Tree Friends. This is a kind of a little bit of a morbid, but nevertheless pretty hilarious online cartoon where these, little cute characters, cute-looking characters, get into all sorts of, we'll say, murderous shenanigans, and yeah, a lot of crazy stuff happens in that show. But you can see it's a fairly, low-resolution image, but this is the only image I could find. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to basically create a fully functional character from this single bunny rabbit here. And we're going to go to Photoshop to do this. So I'll just close down all these layers that we currently have open. And let's just bring this into Photoshop, this image into Photoshop. All right, and what I'm going to do is just cut out that image. So we'll just select what we can, quick select tool, and select as much of this character as we can. We'll cut him out, and we'll place him onto our own image. And essentially what we're going to do next is we're just going to be basically layering. I'm going to be cutting out individual parts. I'm going to Control-C this. Let's create a new image. Let's create an image that's a lot larger. We're going to expand this. So I'd like to use maybe 800 by 800, or height maybe be 1,000 or something like that. Okay, and if I paste this, you can see it's fairly small, so I'm going to Control-T to transform it, and you can make it a little bit larger. I believe if you hold Shift, it'll enlarge uniformly. If you hold down Shift, and we'll just kind of place it in the middle. We can fill in his teeth with white later on. Kind of missed his teeth there in the selection process. Oops. Okay. All right, so here's our character. Now, there's a lot of work to do here. The first work that we want to do is we want to actually cut out the individual body parts. Now for this, I'm going to kind of show you an example of what Gary Pye's process is first. So we're going to load a couple of different projects here in this Gary Pye folder here. Now, if you take a look at this example here, this is what he starts off with. He basically starts off with an image. Say for example we drew this image, okay? We just drew this image and we took it into Photoshop. There's no layers yet or anything like that. We drew it. But generally when you're drawing, you want to separate everything onto layers. Currently it's only a single layer drawing right now. But when you're drawing your characters, you want to separate all the different parts, the eyes, the eyebrows, the hair, and everything like that. You want to separate them onto different layers. There's arms, there's hands, and everything like this. These are the parts that you want to separate into, okay? And then there's number 3 here. So these are the eyes. I'm not sure why that came up. These are all the different eyes the sprites that he created. Now for the G3 eyes, we don't have a process yet for importing in the vector-based eyes for the G3 character eyes. So this is why Gary Pye's characters have these sprite-based, or these sprite-based eyes. They don't really stretch much. And there's a lot more of them. Okay, so I'll keep you updated. You can email me probably in another couple months in the future. We will have a faster and a better pipeline for eyes, to bring your character's eyes and mouth and everything like that in for G3 characters. But this is generally what you want to create if you're creating a character that animates based on sprite switching. And then there's the mouths here as well, for example. Now the mouth, you want to have different facial sprites for the different phoneme shapes for lip syncing and everything like that. So when your character's lip syncing, you want to have a different expression or a different viseme shape for all the different phonemes in your character's alphabet or whatever, phoneme library. And then these ones are the actual expressions, that additional expressions that he's added on as well. Okay, so they're all just PNGs, and you want to separate these into different layers and export them separately as well. Now this is the color build in Photoshop. This is what you finally get if you've done your work properly. You have all these different layers here. You can see on the right all the different layers. Okay, so the face, you can make it invisible. The face is separate. The hand is separate on the right. The eye is separate. The eyes and eyeballs separately. Okay, torso. All these items are done separately. They're on separate layers. So you can then export them as separate sprites and import them onto your character. Okay, and here's an example of the hands there as well. Okay, so that's kind of the process that you run through. Normally this is what you want to end up with right here. Your character with everything on different layers. And then you can use those, you can replace those layers on your basic character, which we're going to do in just a moment here. I got to get running here. Okay, so here's our character. This is what we've drawn, and all we need to do is like separate these body parts onto different layers. So what I'm going to do here is, this is kind of, I'm going to do this really quick here. So let's quick select the arm, okay, and I'm going to just, really kind of messily do this here. So I'm going to Control C this, everything, and create a new layer, and Control V. Okay, so that creates our arm there on a separate layer. Okay, and then we can just go to select the arm, and I'm just going to modify this arm quite significantly. Now you can see it's kind of pixelated and everything like that. What I'm going to do is we're going to select. There's a quick little tip here, because part of the arm is missing. It looks a little bit strange. We want to make it into like a regular sort of arm, and then we also want it to be encircled by a kind of a brownish outline. Okay, so the challenge here is, I'm going to just move this down a little bit. We're going to we can use our paintbrush tool, to create an arm like this. Generally, what you want to do is make your arm rounded out. Okay, you can do this using, the paintbrush tool. You can do it using shapes. Say, for example, I wanted to use a ellipse tool, or rectangle works pretty good too. One way I like to create arms is like this, by creating a rectangle, relatively about the same size. Okay, just like this. And then what we can do is we can press enter there, and we want to rasterize that layer. And we can use our brush then to create rounded edges. So I use the brush, and then I kind of just bring the size up to like something like this. And every limb that you want to have a rounded edge just like that. Okay, so it doesn't really matter if it's tilting to the side or not. You want to just have something like this. And then we can go ahead and create the hand there. We can just select this hand and bring it over. Actually, let's just select this part and bring it over. Oops. Nope, we're on the wrong layer there. There we go. Hand transplant. There you go. Quick and easy hand transplant. So over to this side. Okay, and we'll work with that. So Control D to deselect that hand, and I can just take my original layer or original arm there and just erase it a little bit. Just kind of use it as a reference generally for the most part. And then I can also just remove this color here from the outline. Now, if you want to have an outline on your character, if you notice the G3 characters, they don't have an outline. Let's go back to our difference between like a character like Kip, for example, and the G3 characters is that Kip has a black outline on all his body parts, and the G3 characters do not. So it's really up to you if you want to keep this. I'm just going to go ahead and do the outline for this one. So let's go ahead and quick select this entire little layer right here. Okay, so I'm just going to select the entire arm. Okay, whoops. Let's merge those two layers here. And I'm going to select the entire arm. Okay, there we go. So now here's a really quick way to get a nice even outline on your body part or whatever you have. Okay, so with this layer selected, just go ahead and select create a new layer. And then what you want to do is on the second layer, you want to fill it in with whatever color you want the destination outline to be. So in this case, let's just choose this dark brown here. I'm going to hold Alt and click on that color right there. And I'm just going to fill the entire layer in with that color. So I'm going to use the fill tool here and just kind of place it right there. All right, so we have a brown mitten, whatever there. We want to go ahead and select fill over here and put the fill down to 0. And then you go over to layer and layer style and select stroke. And stroke will basically create a black layer around the entire, an even black layer around the entire limb, I guess. And here's where you want to select the color. We'll find that original brown color here. There we go. Okay, so that's an easy way to get you know, a stroke, and you can change the size of that stroke as well, make it a little bit smaller, thinner, so maybe like 3 pixels or 5 pixels or something, or maybe 4 pixels. This one's pretty sensitive. There we go, we'll use it at 3. And blend mode, just select normal. The position you can put on the outside or on the inside as well, depending on you know, what kind of results you're going for. I generally leave it in the center here, and there you go. So okay, and then Control D to deselect it, and there we have a pretty, you know, even result around our hand. It might be a little bit pixelated around here, but we can just use our erase tool to kind of just even that out. Okay, it's something like this. And once you do that, you get a more even result. Oops, you don't want to do that on this side. So then just, you know, you have these 2 layers together, and you can just merge those 2. And use your Alt or brush here, and, you know, fill in the inside there as well. Just make it a bit more even. Now I'm using a mouse here, so obviously I'm like a little bit sketchy on this kind of stuff with the mouse, but there you go. So there's basically, that's your arm basically right there. And you want this to be on a separate layer. Okay, so we have our arm. If we just bring our character up like this, let's go ahead and separate the torso. We don't have much time here, so I'm going to just go ahead and kind of show you how we would import in this arm. So what I would want to do is take this layer here, Control T, and bring it over top of my character like this. Okay, and just going to have it straight out like this. Place it on the shoulder. Okay, and then press Enter. So we want to position everything first of all. And let's go over here to make that layer invisible now. And let's just create our torso layer. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to select the torso. And I'll show you the final product in just a moment. I already have it saved as a Photoshop file. As you can probably tell, this isn't really a quick process. We don't want these ones here. You can hold Alt and click in some location to deselect a part that you don't want here. Okay, so there's our torso. Let's just Control X to, I'm doing a pretty sloppy job of creating layers here, but let's create a new layer here, and Control Shift V to copy in place, and then we can make the other layers invisible. As Control Shift V to copy in place. That's a really useful little tip there. And then what I do is let's just select this entire yellow area here, and I want to just fill this in. I'm going to just select over here, for example, and just fill the entire thing in so it looks a bit more even. Okay, so you get a nice even look. You can click it again to make it a bit more bold. And then again, the same thing. What we want to do here is Control D to deselect, and I would take the chest area right here, so Alt click, and then I would just, you know, make a large paintbrush here, just try and make something a little bit even. And there you go. Okay, and that creates sort of our neck area, and then make it smaller. And let's just brush this up over here. There we go. Okay, so that creates our torso, and then we want to, you know, make this part even here as well. Okay, it's not very even, but again, I have the final product in Photoshop. It's I'm going to take a little bit longer to do that, and then you can just go ahead and show your item right here. And then the head, you'd want to put a head layer over top of that layer. Okay, so basically everything's done here. Well, that's the process of how you do it. I'll show you a project where everything's done just to kind of speed things up. And that is this one right here. So I have step 1, PSD right here. So this is step 1. So what I've done in step 1 is you can see right arm right there, left arm right there, head right there. That's what you want to do, is you want to separate all the layers first. You want to get your basic layers, so there's torso and everything like that. And then step 2, at the end of step 2 is where you have them all on separate layers. And what I did for step 2 is actually just an easy way to do it is you just use the same image, the same sprite for the left arm as for the right arm, okay? And you just place the right arm like behind the torso, not in front of the torso, okay? So behind the torso like this, just to kind of see what it looks like. And I've done everything on separate layers, like the eyes right here, the nose. And what you want to do then is you want to replace the individual parts onto your character in Crazy Talk Animator. So the template you want to use for that, there's a couple of different templates. Let's go ahead and create a new project here. The general template you want to use for that is under G3 Human, you'll find the human motion bone right here. So our character is facing to the side, so I'm going to bring in this human motion bone dummy right here. And if we go into composer mode now, basically I'm tasked with replacing all these sprites. So let's select this sprite right here, go to sprite editor. This is our torso right here, the hip, okay? So what you want to do is just replace this, and I believe I have it saved, custom character right here, torso, okay? So it'll be small because actually what I should have done prior to this is bring this image into Photoshop first, this character, this dummy into Photoshop, and adjusted the size. But if we close that down, you can see there's our sprite. We'll just make it a little bit larger. Whoops. That sprite needs to be larger there. Oh. All right, let's do it one more time here. There we go. Gonna make the sprite larger, not the bone larger. Okay, so the sprite is when there's a green selection box. You know you're modifying the actual sprite, not the bone. Can't just position that. Generally, you wouldn't have to do this unless you made a mistake like I did. You made the image, the character, way too small. What you want to do first, the correct procedure, is you want to take your character, your dummy character, and you want to export the individual parts into Photoshop. Like, so say for example the head, we launched the head in Photoshop. Let's Control A, Control C, and let's place the head over, our original, which one is step 1 here? Step 1. Okay, so Control V. So you can see the head is really massive. We go to canvas size here. Let's make it like 1,000 by 1,000. Okay, so the reason I had to resize it is because obviously everything that I created was way too small, and so we had to, make it the size larger. Now, what you want to do, in order to avoid resizing everything in Crazy Talk Animator, is you want to export those parts, the dummy parts, into Photoshop first, and make sure that your everything is the same size. So, like our character here, Control T, we want it to be at least like, this size, something like this, okay? And, that would be the size that we'd want our character to be before we imported it into Crazy Talk Animator 3. Okay, so once that's all finished, you'll have a character. I'm just kind of skipping a lot of steps here, but you kind of get the point. Basically, those are the steps. Once your character's finished, then you save it as a custom character. So I already have mine saved right here, Happy Tree Friend 01. And here's the character. So because I use the template, this actor template here, because I use this character's template right here, the human bone right here, then I'm able to use all the animations that are attributed to that bone. So if I go to animation, I go to Elastic Folks, I can go to like perform and just use a dance. You can see our character will dance and all the bones are set up properly. That's a pretty weak dance. This one's pretty cool though. Okay, so there's the character. You can just double-click these motions and apply them to your character really easily. So that's the advantage of using the template right here. Now that's a template character. You can also create a free bone actor as well. Now for a free bone actor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you kind of like a worm maybe. Okay, so let's go to type in a cartoon worm, just because worms are the easiest here. And with images, make sure we have PNGs. Okay, and I don't know. Let's use something like any one of these worms will do, actually. We'll just go ahead and use this guy. Okay, we'll save that. And what we can do then is take that image into character, or not character creator, Crazy Talk Animator here, and use set as a prop. And we have this, single image right here. So what we want to do is add a bone structure onto it. So we need to go to composer mode here, and we have a separate tutorial on this as well. With your character selected, what you want to do is add a bone structure. So we need to, one sec here. We'll have the option to add the bone structure to our character for some reason. Oh, we imported it in as a prop, that's why. Yeah, don't import it in as a prop. Import it as a free bone actor. All right, let's do that one more time. There you go. And import it in as a G3 free bone actor. I'm so used to importing it as props, so it just kind of came to second nature there. G3 free bone actor. All right. So then it'll take it directly into composer mode, and you just add a bone structure right here. So you go like from here, add bone. And you want to make sure that your bones are on your character's mesh. Okay. Let's go to the neck up there, something like this. Okay. So now we have a bone structure on our worm right there. And because it has a bone structure like this, we've created a free bone actor. We can't use the template motions that we have in the library. We have to animate it manually. So what you want to do then is you can go to subdivision here. You want to make sure that you, over here in edit, I think it's preference. It's been so long since I did this. Not edit preference. Where is it? It's in a weird place somewhere here. Oh, we need to make sure we have the character mesh selected first. Anyways, let's go ahead and take this character into back to stage mode here. And then when you animate this character, say for example you wanted to animate it, go to Content Manager, Animation, you can't apply any of these motions to it. So if I wanted to like have him ride a scooter, nothing's going to work because it won't recognize the bone structure. But you want to animate it, you have to go down here to Motion Key Editor, and you can animate these bones separately. So if we take this bone like that, we can stretch it out like that. We can have the worm crawling like this. Okay, we can have his head, move around like that. We can rotate it back and forth. And if we wanted to, we can go to let's go to frame 10 and have our characters or have the worm kind of crunch up like this. And have this part crunch up like that. And go to frame 20 and just press reset all. Okay, and then we have this, worm motion like that. And if we want to save that, you can press F3 and go into our timeline. And we have the collect clip track right here. We can click and drag right there. And, we can also just, copy these transform keyframes and paste them a little bit further down as well, just to give ourselves a longer clip. So we have a worm motion like this. Oh, we only copied the single transform. So let's go ahead and undo that. There is no dope track for this yet. Let's just do the collect clip track here and add the action menu, and we'll call it crawl. Okay, and so the reason I'm using a worm character here is, oops, that closed down there, is because we can add this worm character into our like Benny Hill scene where he's, they're running back and forth, and we can have the worm chasing someone, just because it's easier or limited for time as far as creating a different type of character. But you can create more advanced characters as well, and I can, if you email me, I can kind of guide you through that process in addition. But there's also YouTube videos, YouTube tutorial videos that I can refer to you that go into much more detail on that. So anyways, here's our motion for our character. And when we're finished that one, we can go ahead and right-click, action menu, and crawl. Okay, so we have this crawl that we can just loop through, and here's our crawling motion for our worm. All right. So that's really all there is to it, to creating a custom motion and having your creating a free bone actor. Now, in addition to that, type of character here, there's G3 spline as well. And with a G3 spline, if you select the spine dummy, this is going to be a kind of a different type of character. You can use this spine, but your character has to be straight. Has to be kind of straight, like this tiger tail, for example. This penguin, for example, if we bring this penguin in, say, for example, we just had a straight worm, and it wasn't kind of like all bent out of shape like this guy. Well, if we go to this character, we go to the bone structure right here, you can see it just has a straight, basic bone shape like this. And we can move, you know, parts like this and stretch them back and forth like that. All right, if this worm image was actually just straight, it would be easier to do that, and then we could apply different motion templates. So these G3 animals, these templates here, these ones also have motions that we have available specifically for those bone structures. So this penguin here, for example, if we go to G3 spine under animations, you know, there's a catapult. We can have a catapult motion. There's a die. Okay. If we try to apply it to this character, you know, it's going to look a little bit weird, okay, because we didn't use that template. So that's the difference between using the templates and using free bone actors. And when you use the templates, you just want to replace the different sprites, and you know, it's much easier to use the templates. And when you use the templates, you can actually use all those animations like I showed you. That's why it's so easy for me to for this character that I created in the furry character that I created. Just to apply the running animations and the dancing animations to him throughout the Benny Hill scene. So if we just, you know, say for example, go to this run sequence right here. Let's just use 2 right here. So in this sequence that I'm going to load up here, you'll see that all the characters basically have the same run motion applied to them. So the bunnies, notice that their runs are really, really similar, okay? And the reason for that is because they're the exact same motions, because all these characters are based off of the G3 bone that I showed you earlier. And that's the advantage of using those types of characters, or that type of template to create your characters. If you have a free bone actor, it's a lot more difficult, a lot more complicated. Or not really more complicated, but you have to do the keyframe editing, which sometimes isn't that bad because, you know, Crazy Talk Animator 3 is actually pretty good for that. We have transition curves and everything like that. You can create some much smoother animation and elastic motions and everything there as well. I'm going to just go ahead and stop right now because we've kind of covered most of what I want to cover. I kind of showed you the breakdown of what the characters consist of and everything like that. So what I'm going to do now is take questions from the attendees here. We're going to go for about 10-20 minutes here. So if you have any questions about what we just showed, what I just covered here, feel free to put those in the questions panel. And we may have some stuff that you may need to email me about later as well. So let's go ahead and get into the questions here right off the bat. Okay, another first question is one we normally get. Are we going to be able to view this later? Yep. We are recording this, so we're going to be sending it out to you a little bit later in video format in a private video link, so you can review it as much as you want. All right, so we had one comment from Anne saying she hasn't received a link or survey from yesterday. I believe we should be sending the survey out at the end. If you're a returning attendee, so if you're returning for session 2 and session 3, we'll be sending out that link to you guys at the end of all 3 sessions, okay? So for the survey and everything like that, since we want to get your opinion on the entire thing, not just on one single class. All right. Okay, so a question from Ty asking about Photoshop and Premiere, using Photoshop and Premiere, some hotkeys that I used. Yeah, you know, I think it's kind of come second nature to use some hotkeys in Photoshop. My apologies if I move too fast in Photoshop. I'm actually kind of a Photoshop dummy, but hopefully most of the stuff I showed you in Photoshop wasn't too complicated. Generally, just have a familiarity with layers, and if you don't want to purchase Photoshop, you can also use GIMP as well. GIMP is free software that you can find online. It's a GIMP. I know a lot of users who are using GIMP. So, you know, it tends to be a little bit slower in some cases, but it does do the trick. Okay, and yeah, we had some comments on customizing Gary Pye's characters from Judy. Yeah, we definitely showed how to customize those. Okay, so yeah, so Ty has a really good comment here. Ty Roush has a good comment about the G3 characters being vector-based. Now, the G3 characters are not particularly vector-based. Only their heads are vector-based. So only the heads and the facial features are vector-based. And he's asking if our programming team can develop a way to open them in Adobe Illustrator or Corel Draw, which is a very, very excellent suggestion. And I think that would save everyone tons of time. And we are working towards something like exactly what you mentioned there, Ty. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it out in time for our initial release, but we will have it available in a future version. So for those of you who are not really familiar with what I'm talking about here, when I brought up my G3 character, the G3 human here, let me just minimize my GoToWebinar meeting window there. When I brought up my G3 character here, and you go to the composer mode, you'll notice that, like I showed earlier, the facial sprites, like the chest, at the very beginning I showed the chest, you can launch into an image editor, like Photoshop. However, the stuff like the nose and the eyes, you cannot, because these are vector-based sprites, meaning they're not image-based, okay? And they need to be imported in from Illustrator or Corel Draw or Flash, which some people still use. Now, what Ty is asking for is an option here to launch this this vector-based image into Adobe Illustrator or something like that, which I think is an excellent suggestion, and I will pass that on to our development team. So hopefully that'll you know, satisfy some of you guys out there. It's a really useful option. Okay, so Karen asked a good question here. Since your bunny's arm only had one segment, which arm segment on the dummy do you replace? Well, actually, let's take a look at this G3 character here. That's a good question, because this G3 character here, if we select the forearm, there's actually no sprite attached to the forearm. If you go to Sprite Editor, nothing in the forearm. Okay, so basically the only thing that has a sprite attached to it is the upper arm. So if we select the upper arm and select Sprite Editor, it's basically the entire arm is attached to this upper arm bone right here. Okay, so that's why it's a little bit easier. And if we just preview, you know, this stuff right here, you'll notice that when we move the hand, for example, that the bone will actually, you know, bend and morph the arm. All right, so that's the reason for putting the bones on the image there. So anything that is below the bone, it will actually morph. It creates that as a mesh and it will morph it, okay? So even though the sprite is only assigned to the upper arm, if you have bones on the lower arm and the hand, any mesh that is below those bones will be morphing along with those bones, and those bones will control it, okay? You can even actually add bones in there as well if you want, like Bone Editor. You can go into just my questions panel out of the way here. Add a bone like right here, for example. Just place it in the middle. Oops, there we go. Cancel that. And then right here, that's like a separate bone for like a separate arm or something, okay? So you can do that as well. Oops, let's Control-Z that as well. There we go. And right here, if we select Add Pin, I haven't done this in quite a while. You can add a pin to certain areas to you know, pin the mesh to a certain section of the bone there as well. All right, so let's go into the next question here. Where are we here? Oops, back to the top there. Okay, so we did have a question from a user that was wondering about using pop video in like a real life setting. And I do have a good example of that. I'll quickly show you guys here. It's not really related to character creation, but if I just like load up a scene here in my content manager really quick, let's just load up like a office conference room, for example, here. I showed you in the last webinar, yesterday's webinar, how to export pop video. You can also export pop video of real life characters if you have the pop video program. And I do have some pop video files here under this folder. So we have this guy here. You can just bring it in. This is a transparent video, a transparent pop video. Just import it in as a prop. We can make that larger and place it back there on the z-axis. And if we play back, now we have this real life actor in a cartoon environment. So it's really easy. You can with pop video you can use green screen footage of yourself, remove the green screen, and put it into situations like this. And you can have yourself talking to a cartoon character if you want. So I thought that was kind of cool thing to mention there, how you can do that with real life actors as well. Okay, so Dan asks, talking about pop video is not needed for Mac version of CTA3. Under video settings for Mac, you have ProRes 4444, which does the same thing as removing a background. Okay, awesome. Thanks for that, Dan. I don't use the Mac version, but Dan mentions that you don't need pop video for the Mac version if you use the ProRes 4444 export format. Then you can it'll just export as a transparent background, okay, as a video with an alpha on it. Okay, so that's pretty cool. We don't need to use pop video. You can export that to Photoshop or not Premiere or whatever. Okay, so Mashoud asks how to make a Freebone character front view walk. A Freebone character, if you want to make it walk, you would have to create a walk cycle the traditional way. You can't apply the library motions that we had that I showed you earlier. So if we have an actor like a Freebone actor right here, like this zombie character is a good example. Okay, I have a separate tutorial on this zombie character. So this zombie character here is just something I created. It's very similar in structure to the Happy Tree Friends character I created, but with this character, if you right-click, there's nothing in the action menu. Okay, so what you need to do is down here, you need to manually use the motion key editor to move the limbs like this. Okay, so you would go to I don't know, frame 20, and move this leg forward, this leg backwards, or leave this leg right here, and then frame 30. I haven't created a walk cycle in a long time, but I'll just go here and then, okay, so you have walking kind of like this, okay, and you just want to loop that. So then you do the same thing that I showed you earlier with the crawl from the worm there. You just want to collect the clip and loop it and create a kind of a walking loop like that. That's a really crappy example, but that's generally how you'd want to do it. Okay, so hopefully that answers that question for you there. And how to use a prop as a sprite in Character Composer, asks Ricky. If you want to use a prop as a sprite, what you just need to do is, well, first, if you want to use it as a sprite in your, as part of your image library, as part of your sprite library, you need to have it saved as an image, which you can easily export from Crazy Talk and as an image and then import it back in. But if we have let's see, a G3 human character. I showed you that earlier with the hat example there. So all you want to do is bring in a prop and save it. And let's just give this guy a boxing glove as an example, because I have a boxing glove saved. So save it as a custom prop, and then you want to click and drag the custom prop onto whatever bone you want for your character. So in this, for example, we'll use this one here. And we'll just resize it and reposition it. This is just a boxing glove PNG. I mean, the awesome thing about Google Images is you can just take these images and use them on your character. So this looks pretty good, if we deselect the bones there. It looks like our character has a boxing glove. We can do the same thing for the other side there as well, and that'll be attached to our character's arm there. So if we select our character and preview, it's going to be hit himself in the stomach, I guess. Okay, but it's just kind of showing you how easy it is to attach a prop to a certain part of your body. And there you go. Okay, so hope that explains that for you there. That one was from Ridsky. Okay, so thanks for that question, Ridsky. Okay. Oh, so Pierre asks, adding pins has unexpected results to lock certain areas. Any suggestions or best practices? To be honest, for my characters that I've created, I haven't really used pins. I haven't gotten into that much detail. You have to be very careful with the pins. Now, there's a tutorial that talks about the pins. I believe if we go to, since I don't want to explain everything right here, the tutorial that talks about pins is, I believe, a little ways back here. Get this questions panel out of the way here. I believe it's way back here. This one here, creating a simple free bone character. So this is a tutorial you'll want to watch. You want to watch creating a simple free bone character right here, just to get more detail on what I covered in this tutorial here, and also creating a character with the G3 spine template. So this is importing a single image into that G3 spine template. If I had a worm that was a bit straighter, I could do that, like I mentioned earlier. Okay, so these two right here, they talk about the bone and everything like that, the pinning. I can't really, unfortunately, I can't really say that about any suggestions, because I don't have enough experience myself in pinning character meshes. So sorry for that, Pierre. If you have a specific example, you can just email me and with images, and I can kind of fool around with it myself and try and help you out there. So Connie asks, where are the YouTube tutorials located? Just our Reallusion channel, which I'm in right now. So youtube.com/user/reallusion/videos, and there's a playlist for Crazy Talk Animator 3 stuff. If we go over here to playlists, there's CTA 3 tutorials. This will be tutorials from us and a couple tutorials from other users as well. This one's pretty cool. This is one that I think there's a user named Mashud who asked a question earlier about, he emailed me about wanting to create a Lego character. Oops. Let's just skip this video here really quickly. Okay, so what this guy has done is he actually took a picture of a toy, right? And he created an actual fully functional character from a toy, and he just replaced all the images like this. So this is a really good, it's only 3 minutes long. It skips through a lot of the steps, but it kind of covers most of what you need to know. So you had a Lego character, for example, like a single mesh, like the Happy Tree Friends character that I had. So you can see here he's showing the different layers in Crazy Talk right here. Crazy Talk Animator. So there's the shield as a separate layer, and I'd really recommend checking out this, and then you can find that in our Crazy Talk Animator 3 playlist. This guy's a pretty good example of what we didn't really have time to cover in this webinar here. Yeah, it's good to know the differences between the characters, so you know your restrictions and the advantages and restrictions of each different type of character. So Jalea asks, do we need Flash? Oh, we don't need Flash for doing changes in props or characters. Nope, Jalea, if your character is image-based, like I mentioned, the sprite-based stuff, or the vector-based stuff, you will need to have Flash. And we have Crazy Talk Animator 2 tutorials that deal a lot more about Flash characters, since we were exclusively, G2 characters were exclusively Flash characters back in the day. But any image-based characters, you don't need any of that stuff. Okay, so Camilla asks about, is there an instructional video which shows us in more detail how to perform the character creation tasks from start to finish? Yes. I would recommend for the type of character that I showed you, the Happy Tree Friend character, so like this one right here, creating something like this, we cover that in this tutorial. Let me just go back here and show you. It's the one with the Gary Pie thumbnail on it. This one right here. Create a character creation with a G3 template. So this is probably the tutorial that you want to watch right here. It's 14 minutes long, and this is the ideal tutorial. Now everything is already prepared in Photoshop. What I tried to do in this webinar here is kind of show you how you prepare those parts separately in Photoshop and kind of show you examples, the Gary Pie character and everything like that. But this one is mostly if you already have the sprites prepared, if you already have the images prepared, how you can just replace them on the G3 template. So you can see at the beginning here, we imported in that same G3 template, and as it goes along, you're basically importing in the reference image and then importing in different parts one by one on the character, and adjusting the bones and everything like that. So this is a really good tutorial for all of you who are interested in creating a fully animatable character, similar to the one that I showed you. I did focus a little bit on the face in this webinar because the face is also important for facial animation, which is coming up in tomorrow's webinar. But definitely check out this one here, character creation with G3 template, because this is the most important character creation tutorial, I think, for creating your own characters. You can see the top comment is talking about head animations, which is why I wanted to cover a little bit about head animation in this webinar as well. Okay. Connie asks if I was unable to attend yesterday's webinar, can I receive a link? Yes, you certainly can. We actually have it published on, since it was a free webinar, we have it published under Relusion Videos right here from script to screen. We already have almost 900 views on that from yesterday. So, hopefully you can learn a lot from that one as well. Gabriel asks, how do you rotate characters made with sprites? The rotation I'll cover in tomorrow's webinar, mostly about animation. You can rotate, there's different ways you can rotate characters. And we'll talk a little bit about rotation and character movement in tomorrow's webinar. So hopefully you'll be able to check out that webinar. If not, just email me and I can kind of explain a little bit more to you there, Gabriel, about the different types of character rotation. So Elaine asks, how do you determine which dummy to use for import? The human motion dummy or just the human one or the one with the numbers on it? Definitely use the human motion dummy because this is the one that has all the different bones on it. Under actor, excuse me, the G3 human right here. And so you can see she's asking which one do you want to bring in. Human motion bone is the one that I use to bring in, because this is the one that allows for the animation of the bones and everything like that. Okay, so Daniel asks about building a G2 avatar in Crazy Talk Animator 3. Daniel, unfortunately, the G2 characters are even more complicated than the G3 characters. So we do have separate tutorials on those as well. You can find those on our YouTube channel. Just search like G2 character creation. I think you should be able to find something like in the search right here. Oops. There we go. Creation, Crazy Talk, something like that. You should be able to come up with a bunch of these. So you can see it's all in Flash, and had quite a fun time creating these tutorials a couple years ago when Crazy Talk Animator 2 first came out. All right. But just check out those ones. That'll be a little bit more information for you there. Okay. So Steve asks, or Steve mentions here, Steve Gilla mentions that Xara Designer Pro can edit both vector and raster images. I'm not familiar with Xara Designer Pro. That's X-A-R-A Designer Pro. But yeah, that might be something interesting to look into. Unfortunately, we don't have the export option for the images for the eyes and everything like that yet, but we will have that in the future. Okay, so for those of you who are not aware, since we got a couple of comments about this, the G2 characters are three-dimensional, meaning they're semi-three-dimensional. I'll put that in here. So if you go to G2 plus characters, same as G2 characters, just the faces are different. Saul, for example, we bring in Saul, we can press the bracket key to rotate Saul around like this. Okay, so he's 360 degrees. This character here is only front-facing. So that's the limitation with the G3 characters, is their bodies are only front-facing or side-facing. Now you can create, you can move the bones and import in separate images to make them side-facing as well, but that's something we'll cover in a future tutorial, I believe. With the G2 characters, it's a heck of a time, importing in all those sprites for the different angle profiles here. But once you do that, you get a pretty good, result. You can import in iClone motions, like 3D motions to them as well, which is super cool in my books. Okay, so let's go back to our questions panel here. Still got quite a few more questions. Okay, so Ridsky asks how to export a prop as a PNG file. If you want to export a prop as a PNG file, you can just export it as a PNG image export. So we go to prop. Let's just choose a random prop here. This gun, for example. Okay, so again, everything that's going to be exported is within this blue box right here. So if we want to export this as a PNG file, we just go over here to export and image. You can select PNG. And we want to select current frame. Okay, we don't want a sequence because that'll export like 100 images or thousands of images. Just select current frame and select export. And then we can, desktop here, and let's choose gun. All right, I'm not sure why it opens up that folder there, but let's go here to gun. Yeah, and there's our transparent PNG right there. And if you want to increase the frame size, you can do so to make it higher resolution. That's pretty much it. That's how you get your transparent PNG. All right. So you can use it in other software as well. Okay, so Anne asks, is there a way to put more human cartoon faces on the G3 characters, like in the G2 characters? Yes, you can replace everything on the characters, G3 characters' faces. The easiest way to do that is with our character imported. There's a separate tutorial on it as well, but I'm just going to go to composer mode and show you here. We have a face section in the library, or a head section rather, in the library. So we have all these heads, G2 plus heads, everything like that. In addition to that, you can also create a brand new head by going up here, and you can create a morph-based head. So if you create morph-based head, this will be like taking a single image of your face or your cat or something like that, and it'll create a morph-based head like that. A sprite-based head is the kind of like the sprite-based head that you choose the angle first, and you have to import in all the different sprites. So it'll give you like a template head first, like this one right here, and then what you have to do is, this is the sprite-based head right here, and then what you have to do is go to the scene manager, and you have to choose like left brow, right brow, left eye, and you have to import in your own sprites. So if we go to left brow, for example, here, and we go to the sprite editor, you can see we have a whole library of sprites that we need to fill in. And this is basically, what Gary Pye did when he was creating his Little Mates characters. You just import in all those different parts. I think this is like an eyebrow, maybe a little bit larger. Not totally sure what this one is. Yeah, then you just place that eyebrow where you want to, and you have to do the same thing then for the eyes. So you select your eye down here from the scene manager, and then you import in all those different sprites. So that's how you create a sprite-based head. The morph-based head is like, just basically we delete this head here. Select it and delete it. The morph-based head is just creating an image and morphing it. No. Place a certain current head, yes. And this is where you want a front-facing image of somebody's face, and that's like the traditional way of animating it in Crazy Talk 8, or any basically traditional way of animating your morph-based faces. I think we might have one in the content manager somewhere. Just going to show you a morph-based head. There we go. This guy, Mr. Rosenberg from Crazy Talk Animator 1. Okay, so this is a morph-based head, and the way that this animates is, let's go back into stage mode here. Now here, when you have a morph-based head, there's all sorts of settings here that you can mess around with as well. But back in stage mode, we can, animate this guy, and I'll show you how a morph-based head animates using the facial puppet tool. So, okay, so it's just basically morphing an image, and that's the result you get. So you can do that with your own face if you want, and have it on any sort of character, which is, pretty fun. But that's how you can, I believe the question was a more human cartoon face on the G3 characters. Okay, so you can do that. I just showed you two different ways that you can create the different heads. The sprite-based way might take a little bit longer, just so you're aware. It definitely takes a lot longer. Okay, so Katrina asks, can I import text from another program? TXT. Yeah, well, you have to have basically a PNG image of text. You can't import like a TXT file into Crazy Talk. It has to be image. Like basically everything you import in has to be in an image form. So hopefully that answers that question for you there. Okay, so great. Okay, so Katrina says, thanks, Dan. That was the Apple comment that Dan made earlier. You can export to, what is it? Pro something 444 format. ProRes 4444 format when you're exporting from Crazy Talk Animator 3, the Apple version. Okay. So some of the shortcuts aren't the same for the Mac. Oh man, I'm really not familiar with Macs. I haven't used Mac since back in the college days. But all I know is Control is mostly equivalent to Command for Macs. So apologies to Katrina there if I don't know all the Mac hotkeys. You can also go up to the if you go to Help Files up here, I believe there's a hotkey section, like keyboard shortcuts down here. All right, so we go to Global Shortcuts, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. It shows all the Mac hotkeys as well in Crazy Talk Animator 3, timeline hotkeys, and the editor hotkeys as well, like in stage mode and everything like that. So if you want to, learn all the keyboard shortcuts, you can find it in the help files down here. Okay, so good question from Mashoud here, asking about layering your characters. Now, to show about layering, this is important. I'm gonna just spend some time here to show you about layering. I'm gonna bring in the custom character that I created. So this would have been the character that I imported in like this, and you notice that the layers are normally generally pretty correct. If you want to change the layers of your options of your items or the body parts here, say for example, for some reason we wanted this left arm to be behind the torso. Well, to do that, you need to go to the layer manager over here, and you can see the left arm is currently on top of everything. We can actually click and drag this arm layer and move it down to below the torso. You can see the result right there. So that'll be behind the torso. And that's really as easy as pie, just kind of like clicking and dragging the layers to different parts on your character in the layer manager right here. Now, if you are in stage mode and you want to change the layer order of your character in stage mode, then you need to go to somewhere like this. Down here, there's the layer editor. And we have this leg right here. We can send the leg to the bottom, and it'll go below everything else. Okay, so this is the left thigh right here. We can send it to the bottom. We can send it to the front of, let's say the torso. Which one's torso? Hip. Okay, so if you send it to the front, so the left thigh here, for example, we can send it to the back. Okay, we're going to send it to the very, very bottom. And then if we want to send it back to the top of this torso layer, we just can send to the top, or send to the front, and select the hip. Okay, so it sends to the front of the hip. Or we can go to send to back of the hip, and it'll go to the back of the hip. Okay, So this is the layer editor and how you can use it in the stage mode. So it can be useful, when you're doing animations like this. We go over here, layer editor, left thigh, send to the front of the hip. Okay, so then we have, you can keyframe it like that. Okay, so behind and front, behind and front. If you ever come across a situation, we will have this in part 3 of our tutorial or our webinar series where we need to actually change the layer order throughout the webinar. So we'll have this, cover this a little bit later, but that's how you can use the layer manager in stage mode and also in composer mode there as well. Okay, we have time for like a couple more questions. We're like super over time, but all right, so we will upload this to YouTube. Okay, so we'll be providing you guys with separate links. All right, we got some people who use Draw Plus 8 and Corel Draw. And I think we're just going to kind of try and end it off there. One final question I'll take here from Donna. Can you change the skin color on a common folk character by taking the specific body part into Photoshop? Yeah, I mean, generally what you do is you just take the spray into Photoshop and change the skin color there. Certain characters, like a G2 character, for example, you will see that they have an RS on the top of them. So this actor, character, whoops, we're in custom there. If we go to like G2 Plus characters, you'll see it has an RS. This RS means they're render style compatible. Now render style is a whole different, can of worms there. We go over here to render style. You can choose like a neon character template like that. G2 characters are the only ones who have this capability. Okay, so there's different render styles, just like this. And unfortunately, this character, if we go to render style, there's only one image group, and you can change the entire brightness of the character. Like take it down. You can change the hue. So we can change this to like a pink bunny if we want. Okay, so now we have a purple bunny. We can desaturate it to black and white. All right, so that's by going into the render style. But for image-based characters, you only have the option to adjust the entire item. You don't have the option to adjust different parts at once. Like this character, I can take the skin and make it brighter. Oh, the freckles, that was the freckles. We can make her have white skin. We can give it some, saturation, some hue. This render style is a little bit different than the other ones, but you can adjust things separately. Whereas in the image-based characters, you can only adjust the entire item. That's kind of cool, though. We could have different colored bunnies, chasing each other, just like that with the render style editor. All right, guys, so we're about 30 minutes over here, so I'm going to kind of end everything off here. Again, sorry if I didn't cover everything that that you needed to learn, but if you have any questions, again, you can just email me my private email, kai@reallusion.com, and I'll be able to answer any questions that you have. We're also going to have, I wanted to mention before I leave here, there is a 3.1 Crazy Talk Animator 3.1 patch coming out really soon, and we're going to have PSD import. So this PSD file that I have in Photoshop right now, for example, I won't have to manually import all those parts separately like I showed you earlier. What I can do is in the future in 3.1, this is very important, I forgot to mention this, I just saw that I'm supposed to mention it here. You can import it in the PSD file. So you can save this entire thing as a PSD file, and then there will be an option in Crazy Talk Animator 3.1 to import the entire PSD file, just one single import of a PSD file, and it'll replace those parts automatically. So you will no longer have to import in part by part by part by part. Okay, so it'll be a single click import of a PSD file. So for those of you who've stayed this long, good news for you guys. Apologies I didn't mention it earlier, but yeah, that's a really cool feature that we're including in 3.1. You'll have the ability to import in a single PSD file instead of importing in the sprites all separately. So that'll save people tons of time, and hopefully we'll definitely have a tutorial on that probably within the next month or so. And when the feature comes out, if I don't have a tutorial yet, you can always just email me and ask about how to do it, because I'll be able to show you how to do it probably at least a month before the tutorial comes out. All right. So again, thanks so much everyone for attending. Hopefully a lot of you caught on to that PSD thing because that's a pretty cool. It's for a pipeline version of Crazy Talk Animator 3. Make sure that you're aware this is only the pipeline version. So if you don't have the pro version, it might be worth it to upgrade. If not, then if you have the pipeline version, it's just a single PSD import. So keep that in mind for everyone there. All right, so thanks so much for watching, everyone, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your evening, the rest of your day, wherever you are in the world. And we'll be coming back with part 3 of our webinar series tomorrow. We'll be doing all the animation, including sprite switching animation, body animation, layer animation, all the animation stuff, and a little bit of camera work and assembling in Adobe Premiere as well. All right, so thanks so much for watching. We're going to end it there, and we'll be sending you out the recording as well. Make sure you fill out the survey that we're going to send you at the end of all these classes, and I'll see you in the next webinar.